The Call of Duty Black Ops games lean into fantasy and often surprise with a mind-bending narrative, and the Black Ops 7 campaign is no exception. This is a specific flavor of Call of Duty story that only developer Treyarch has shown the capacity to tell, and despite a few stumbles, the Black Ops 7 campaign does enough to leverage the potential of its more psychological narratives, while also moving the satisfying shooter gameplay into a new framework. The story is set in 2035 as a direct sequel to Black Ops 2, and it brings back David Mason from that game as the main protagonist. In Black Ops 7, you see the effects of Black Ops 2's canonical ending, where Mason kills villain Raul Menendez and an uprising occurs. The world is now ravaged by violent conflict and psychological warfare, and the Guild, a global tech corporation, has stepped in to protect humanity from the chaos created by Menendez's followers. But Menendez seemingly returns despite his apparent death. The Guild promises peace and pushes back against Menendez and his followers, but lacking trust in big tech with armed mercenaries, David leads Spectre 1 into Avalon, the fictional city and home turf for the Guild, to gain intel on the company and its CEO, Emma Kagan. Kagan is a boring and underdeveloped villain who lacks emotion and whose true motivations are unclear. But at the same time, that suits a character inspired by real-world tech CEOs with far too much money and power. Unfortunately, the talent of actress Kiernan Shipka is wasted on a lifeless character. Kagan and the Guild have weaponized the fear-inducing biochemical substance known as Cradle, which Woods and Alder's team were trying to stop in Black Ops 7. This substance creates hallucinations that drive much of Black Ops 7's campaigns. Some of the best parts of the story are these trippy, down the rabbit hole moments, where you're fighting ghoulish creatures and zombie-style bosses. There are also powerful hallucination segments where characters are forced to relive parts of their past. The mission styles have a good variety and usually offer either stealth or action in order to get the job done. Some missions try to nudge you towards the stealth route, but thankfully, you aren't punished for not being sneaky and choosing to go to guns blazing instead. You also get to fight across a wide variety of locations, despite a few missions taking place specifically on Avalon. A lot of the throwback locations are used in a way that's meaningful to Mason and his team, and as a Black Ops fan, I enjoy seeing places like Vorkuta show up in Black Ops 7, but it is worth mentioning that the campaign does reuse some assets in a way that's off-putting. Some of the creatures you encounter look demonic or undead, and those work for the hellish hallucinations, but a few missions use the vermin and parasite enemy types from Black Ops 6 Zombies, and those feel jarringly copy and paste in Black Ops 7's campaign. The campaign also has co-op, so the story puts you in the boots of David Mason or one of his squad mates. You're Mason when playing solo, or you're one of the other 3 squad mates in a co-op session of up to 4 players. Call of Duty having a cooperative campaign is something we haven't seen since 2015's Black Ops 3, where it was poorly received. Initially, I was feeling skeptical at the announcement of this being a co-op experience with some large-scale missions. I love co-op games and open world environments, but I don't think those formats often work well for Call of Duty. Campaigns are at their best when you're thrust into tightly controlled set pieces designed for a solo player. You're the main character, and all the cinematic moments and immersion carry so much more weight. Thankfully, the solo experience is still possible in Black Ops 7, and going solo is the best way to fully experience the story's scripted moments of tension and the eerie hallucinations you'll encounter. This can still be a fun romp for those who want to play with their buddies and level up, but I'm glad my first playthrough wasn't interrupted by friends during emotional moments of the story. One downside is that the campaign is always online, meaning it doesn't allow you to pause even when you're solo. The checkpoints are pretty abundant and forgiving enough though, so I never found myself having to replay too much of a mission if I had to take a break midway through, or I reached a challenging section where I died a lot. Black Ops 7 blends the various set pieces you'd expect to find in a Call of Duty campaign with elements of this year's new endgame mode, which takes place in Avalon, a massive map used for the campaign's new playable epilogue that will also eventually become a battle royale map. You have a typical stealth mission. There are grueling gunfights through tight corridors and most of the other expected level designs, but there are also new elements like additional movement mechanics or supply crates that let you pick between special abilities. You get to use grapple guns, protective shield bubbles, or super soldier like kinetic jumps to leap higher. The result of this approach is hit and miss. There are times where you feel Treyarch's strong cinematic style with tense linear moments while trying to use stealth to move through narrow corridors of enemies. But there are other instances where you're looting boxes for gear in a way that feels a little too much like Warzone or Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. The majority of the 11 campaign missions are traditional linear style, but a few are large open world missions that take place on Avalon. These missions are more engaging than the awful open worldish filler missions featured in 2023's Modern Warfare 3 campaign, but they still don't push the story forward in any meaningful way. They simply feel like they are meant to let players easily dip their toes into an endgame style experience without too much of a commitment. Overall though, this is another attempt at open world missions in a Call of Duty campaign where the objectives just aren't very enjoyable and could be better spent as a typical linear set piece. In an unusual move, you can't select the difficulty of the campaign. Instead, it scales based on how many people you're playing with, adding a greater challenge with more players. This doesn't mean flying solo is the easy mode though. There's still a fair amount of challenge, but you do get plenty of items to assist you, like an abundance of ammo, armor plates, and self-revive kits. I usually play the campaigns on the hardest difficulty, so this wasn't a bad experience for me. But some players might get frustrated by the sometimes overwhelming amount of enemies that swarm you in solo. The entire Black Ops 7 campaign eases you into the power structure of endgame by slowly leveling you up during the course of the story. You'll eventually get increased health, weapons of higher rarity, and so on. You'll also encounter the occasional weapon upgrade station, and each one lets you pick one weapon to upgrade to a higher rarity. There are also a handful of abilities you can choose over the course of the campaign, and some of them prove really useful. I like using the ballistic shield bubble to temporarily protect me from heavy waves of enemies, and the Black Hat device to hack and disable the guild's robotic enemies. The 11th and final mission of the campaign does wrap up Black Ops 7's story, despite the ending not feeling very satisfying. But the game doesn't end after the credits roll. Instead, you're asked to create a character profile for Endgame, Black Ops 7's new sandbox-style experience meant to deliver more story and content with post-launch seasons. This gives a new co-op experience to the Call of Duty beyond the campaign, and I'm really excited by the potential this post-campaign content has. Treyarch said the endgame was inspired by elements of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies and Modern Warfare 2's DMZ extraction mode, which is very noticeable when you jump into the match. The endgame grants access to Black Ops 7's full Avalon map, and you can play solo or in squads of up to 4 players. Either way, Endgame consists of PvE matches that have open world gameplay with up to 32 players, and the goal is to level up your soldiers' combat power to unlock new abilities as well as increase your health and other attributes. Endgame is designed around high risk and high reward missions that require you to survive and successfully exfiltrate from Avalon to keep your progress and gear. If you die, you lose everything and will need to start over. It's also where co-op shines in Black Ops 7's campaign, and as someone who enjoyed both DMZ and MWZ, this gives me a new place to play and level up with friends. There are tons of mission types to complete, with some being fairly simple and others requiring more time and effort to complete. Endgame is let down by AI that isn't very intelligent. Enemies have eagle eyes for spotting you, but they can often make silly mistakes that allow you to easily outplay them. You can't underestimate them though, because they still can overwhelm you with their numbers. Endgame continues the story of the campaign, and there are already guild facilities to investigate and a mysterious toxin spreading across Avalon. Of course, getting to the heart of the story requires being powerful enough to work through to the highest regions of the map. This is also where having friends to join you can help a lot. Venturing into the harder regions alone is a tough challenge, and it will always help to have someone nearby to revive you, especially when the cost of death means losing all of your character progression. Endgame will change over time, but at launch, some of the areas of Avalon can feel empty. Treyarch has teased some big boss encounters coming in Season 1, though it remains to be seen how those pan out. Endgame doesn't do anything particularly fresh or innovative, but I still enjoy Call of Duty's satisfying gunplay and mechanics in these sandbox type experiences enough to keep coming back. In addition to new story elements, you also have this space to level up weapons and try new things outside of Call of Duty's normal campaign and multiplayer experiences. I can see a lot of potential and replayability for the mode, especially if Treyarch remains committed to making thoughtful seasonal updates. Outside of the story moments, one of my favorite additions to Black Ops 7's campaign is the shared progression. For the first time ever, you can jump into a campaign and level up before ever touching the endgame, multiplayer or zombies. This includes overall player progression, weapon leveling, and it will include Battle Pass progression once the first season arrives. Overall, this is the most robust Call of Duty campaign experience, and depending on your preferences, you can fully level up, unlock rewards and prestige, all without ever leaving the campaign. This opens the door to more types of players to enjoy the longevity of a Call of Duty game without needing to focus on competitive scenarios. The Black Ops 7 campaign has some successful missions and emotional ties to the characters and the overarching Black Ops story, and those moments make up for some of its shortcomings. However, this is not one of Treyarch's strongest campaigns, and the twist and villainy here feels a little underbaked for a game designed to be a sequel to such a beloved storyline as Black Ops 2 is. The campaign still offers plenty of emotional character moments and touches on the impacts of Black Ops 2's story, so I think the story is definitely worth experiencing. Endgame also serves as an intriguing new way to play Call of Duty, and while it's uncertain how much seasonal content will allow the mode to grow, I'm excited to play more and see how Treyarch expands on it.